Hi guys, I am Magan Thompson. I am a middle school teacher from Missouri. I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade social studies. And this first semester, I have done 2 projects through Defined Learning, and I'm going to show those to you right now. So the first project I did was with my 7th grade geography class. This was at the beginning of the year. My intent for this project was to get them to look at geography as more than just maps. They were like, when are we going to do maps? And that's not even what the whole first unit is about. So in this specific unit, we looked at how humans and um, the environment interact with each other and the effects of some of the things that humans do to the environment. So as we were learning these, and I'll go to my questions here in a minute, I actually worked in um, these questions that you can do through the Define Learning platform, the student check-in questions. We worked these questions into our units. So they were amazing at providing these questions, and we provided them into our unit. And this was something that we did over the course of several weeks, because a lot of the research was before we even did the research project. A lot of it was just learning how humans and the environment interact with one another. But when we finished, as we were wrapping up the units and they were starting to get a grasp on the causes and effects of things that humans do to the environment, this project shows up on their Defined Learning platform, which I walk them through how to use. Their task was to choose one endangered species and create a they had several options initially: marketing flyer, um, photo story, editorial. I found that the students were overwhelmed with choice when I gave them too many choices, so I did cut it down to just marketing flyer. This is based upon how humans and animals and the environment all interact, and they had to come up with something that showed the causes and effects of humans and what they are doing to these endangered animals. So, like I said, as we were learning about this before we even began our research component, we did our unit and we covered these questions. Towards the end, I had them compile a list of animals that are endangered. And then they had to compile a second list. And this is like a whole class brainstorming sesh on animals that are endangered because of something that humans have done. And then they had to choose one animal from that list. I had already compiled a pretty big list. I kind of just have my own list and guide the students there. Um, so then we began our research, and I found that this is actually the hardest part for them to do. What is amazing about Define Learning is you can put your resources. This is my Define Learning page. You can put your resources. You can put a list here. Here's just one example that I provided for them. You can put links. All of these will open up, and you can edit this and put all of your own information in there. So my students were never like just randomly searching upon Google, unless they absolutely had to. But before we even got to the research, we had to come up with research questions. So I showed them the final project, which looked like this. They had 3 paragraphs that they had to write. They had to write a description paragraph, cause and effect paragraph, and an action solution paragraph. I, of course, already had the questions that I wanted them to be looking for and answering, but we brainstormed as small groups first because I do want them to have that cooperative learning aspect. And then their small groups came together and we created one big master list of questions. I have mine set up like this, because when they're done, essentially, this will be a paragraph, this will be a paragraph, and this will be a paragraph. So the students then took the time. I put them in groups based on the animals that they chose, and they were able to fill in their animals into these questions. But then I made them flip their page over, and this is exactly how I had them create their notes. My first research project ever was a big flop, and that's because I did not give them any sort of guidance on how to take notes. I don't remember learning how to take notes, but middle schoolers definitely need outlines and guidance towards taking notes, or they just like write everything down in one big jumble and doesn't make any sense. But this did. And then through this, I was able to set them down. Okay, today we are going to write our description paragraph, which is our first paragraph. And that one's fairly easy for them. And then I can meet with small groups. Okay, if you have your description paragraph written, come up here and let's look at it and make sure we have it. Cause and effect. I actually, before they write their cause and effects paper, we go through cause and effect signal words, so that we're not just writing so, then, because that's what middle schoolers do. That's what I do. I actually have to look at that list myself. And then solutions and actions. I checked in with my students during this research and drafting portion daily, like whether it was a small group or as a whole, like they could not move on to the next step if I didn't think that there was enough there, specifically like the facts and statistics. They wanted to be like, the animals are dying. Like, that's true, that's an effect, but can we get an exact rate at which they're dying? Can we get a number that there was last year versus a number that there is this year? Do we have a projective date? And if you give them exacts that you want, they will go and find those things, which I thought was pretty amazing. Lots and lots and lots of check-ins. Also, while they're researching, while I did give them resources, I do require that my 7th graders create citations. I'm not expecting perfect citations, because I, as someone who did teach ELA for the last 3 years, still cannot do perfect citations. So I give them this organizer and we go through and we learn how to do it together. This is actually one that a student created. If it's a website, this is all I'm looking for. I show them how to turn this box into this, which they're amazed that they're allowed to just copy and paste it in order, slap a period in there when they're supposed to. They're happy about it, and they did it. We don't have the hanging indents or anything over here just yet. That'll be an 8th grade project, but they do have a working works cited page that is fairly accurate. So they have done their research. It's been approved by me. They draft. I make them draft on paper because 7th graders do like to copy and paste a little too much. And then they are given this, which when it's given to them, it's blank. It just says title, goal, picture. The headings are there. So it'll say description, cause and effect, actions and solutions, and they are asked to put their information in. And I think they did a fabulous job. Here's 2 of mine about saving the sea otters. Their goal was to get more than 3,000 sea otters in the world. And if you pause and read it, you'll see that they did a fairly good job of putting in those signal words as well. This is an animal that I had to look up because I was like, that's not real. No, you cannot do that. I kind of had like a Napoleon Dynamite, like Liger flashback. And they looked that up and said that was real too. But a Tygon. And theirs is how to save this almost extinct species. That is their goal, is to essentially save it. And I mean, I think that both of these students did a pretty fabulous job on this front. I was super excited. This is a project that I was excited about seeing students at like all ends of the like reading and writing spectrum knock it out. I was very, very, very pleased with how well that they did. The students actually went on 2 pages. Final reflections. I'm a doer, so when I saw that there was 10 different options that students could pick from, I was super excited. Students were overwhelmed with making a choice. I may build upon this in the future, but at the beginning, I kept it simple. In terms of research, I did limit options for them. I do think I can provide better resources for them, but the Defined Learning folks did, I felt like, an amazing job providing resources. It does help that these students provided resources for me that I can just put on there for next year. I already thanked them for that. They really did do really well on this project. And this was a project that covered writing, reading, social studies, science, and then they had the 21st century skills where they were like working together cooperatively to move towards like one goal. They were using social medias, and so I was really, really excited about that. Now, I did do a second one, and when I was planning the second one, I said to the person who's doing our virtual curriculum directing, and I said, why do I feel like as soon as I assign this, we're going to go virtual? And she said, no, I don't think we will. And it was very much the next day. Very much the next day we were out. We were virtual. I did get through the first step. So this was actually a 2nd, 3rd grade one that I just adapt and essentially just made it a little more difficult, and then provided those higher level sources for them to actually have to read through. Because I was like, this is so cool. This is exactly what we're doing. And that's what's so amazing about this program is you can essentially change it however you want. Because like I said, again, this was a second grade one. I made them a little more difficult. And when I provided my sources, which I did, I learned from my first one. I provided many more sources in this. Um, it brought it up to that sixth grade level, and I was very happy with how that turned out. Now this looked different than how I wanted it to because we did go virtual on the second day of this. So we finished our ancient rivers civilizations. This is sixth grade, by the way. Their ancient river civilizations units, and then instead of a like test, I wanted to do a project, and we watched a video through here, like on a museum, what a museum looks like. And we're like, but we can't go visit one because of COVID. Also, the one we watched was in Egypt, so we definitely can't go to that one. And so I was like, how cool would it be to make our own? And they were really excited. And I was like, good, because that's your project. So we did come up with these questions though. We're like, if we are an archaeologist and we have this artifact, we have whatever, and we are trying to tell other people what it's about, what things does the audience need to know? We came up with this list of questions together, and this is something that I did put online. I did ask that if they used another website other than the one I provided for them, that they just put it on there. One, so I could add it to my list, and two, so that they're not plagiarizing. I did not have them do the full citations because they were virtual. That's a hot mess to deal with. So they did do this. And then on my slides, they had to do rough drafting. So while they were virtual, I stayed on while they were researching so they could ask questions. Not every student stayed on, but because they already had these research questions and sources, they were pretty well able to rock it out by themselves and find some really interesting information. I did require that they have their notes done by a certain day, and you can see that on here. And we were able to, even virtually through our Google Meets, turn our research notes. We talked about what a topic sentence looks like. They had a partner initially, but because we went virtual, they no longer had that partner. So we kind of did it as a whole class. This is my topic. What should my topic sentence be? And they were able to work collaboratively pretty well with that body of the paper. This is where you will put your answers to your questions and then conclusion sentence. Now, what I loved though was we did get to come back. So after the rough drafts were done, they were able to meet with those partners for their final drafts, and their partners kind of tore into them. They're like, no, you forgot this, 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 and this. You need to go back and find it. I found it. This is the source that I used, which is amazing to see them collaborate on that and then also edit and revise those things together. I do provide quite a bit of editing and revising tips, and that's all in their virtual notebook that they have for me. That's not necessarily through this, but they edit and revise. I make them read it out loud to their partner when it's done. I make their partner read it out loud to them because sometimes we fill things in, and then they were given this template. My plan was to have them copy all of theirs onto like one master slideshow, but one of the other teachers did it, and I was like, no, these kids are messing with each other's slideshows. So it was an individual slideshow, and it's also something that they could upload through their portfolio on Defined Learning by themselves. Instead of having just one, they were able to upload this to their portfolio on Defined Learning, which I also love. And then when everyone turned theirs in, I made a master slideshow. This isn't all of them, but this is another one, or table of contents, that regardless of the students' like reading and writing levels, I felt like they were able to really just kind of crush it again, because they had all the resources, they had the questions, and they had it all in one nice, neat place. And they're just able, I feel like they did a really good job. These students, when I say like academic reading and writing levels, are all over the place, and you really wouldn't be able to tell just looking at it because they did such an amazing job on working collaboratively and using each other's strengths. and really just working together. I was really excited with how this one turned out. And then they were able to also present when they came back, which they liked. I think that next year I would add a component where there's like a video of them presenting it. I think that would be really neat. Add to that virtual component. And let me stop sharing. Right. That's all. It's 2 really fun projects. Plan on doing several more.